So this is a different kind of video. I'm just going to play the game here and letting the footage run and then talking honestly about where things are right now. So today is the first official day of me being laid off. And yeah, that sounds heavy when I say it out loud. It is heavy in some ways, but at the same time, I do not feel crushed by it. I feel like something ended and now I have to figure out what I'm going to do with the time in front of me. And the thing I keep coming back to is Azthengar. You know? This game has been sitting in my life for a long time now. And I've worked on it after long days and late at night and when I'm tired and whatnot or frustrated. When I probably should have been doing something else, more creative with my time. But I kept coming back to it. I keep adding stuff to it. I keep adding everything to it. Oh, gotta get this little skeleton guy here. Oh, okay. So, gotta get this other guy. Oh, gosh darn it. That's one thing I should do is make the conflict screens or whatever go way quicker. Ugh. But you know what, though? It is a nice little thing. I like seeing that. Anyway, so that this game has been sitting in my life for a long time now. I've worked on it after long days, late nights, all that jazz, like I said before. But now that I'm laid off, everything feels different. Before Azthengar was something, I worked on whatever I could. Now, for the first time, ooh, got a bonus. Now, for the first time, I have all the time in the world. I'm like that guy from that Twilight Zone episode. With the books. But anyways, before Azthengar was something, I worked on whatever I could. Now, for the first time, I could actually give it my full attention. Got some gold. Hey, 23 gold from a skeleton. That's pretty sweet. Anyways, so, because now the game matters more in a different way. Now that I'm just mellowing out, I'm going to start looking for another job here next week and Monday. I figured, this week was a write-off, so why the heck not? And when I say I want the game to succeed, I'm not just talking about, becoming famous overnight. No, that's not what I want. Or I'm not pretending this is guaranteed dream. But right now, success means someone actually gets to download it. They click the link, they download it, they play it, they let me know how they like it. Uh, it's one of those things. I want the player to feel like they are walking through a world. A world to which everything around them is constantly changing and is almost foreign in a way. Video games these days are just so overproduced and over bloated, and it's just really sad. But this is actually a really fun game, and I'm not just saying that just because it's me, but being able to sit down and play what you make, it's such a wonderful thing. I commend more people to go out and make their dreams come true. You might not be able to make it as an artist, but at least give it a shot. I like to think that this is what I'm doing. Perhaps one day somebody will play my game and be like, man, I want to be like the knight from Azthengar, slaying feral fairies and blood demons and evil kings and meeting a broccoli girl, the serpent queen Slithera. My people are being devoured beneath the roots. The white web mines crawl with man-sized killing spiders. Will you help us vanquish the pale widow? Of course I will. I had this whole speech written out and everything like that. I wanted to sound professional, but the hell with it. Please do not leave me down here. The spiders came out of the walls and dragged the others away. Tell Slithera the mine is alive with white legs. Well, thank you, Silked Miner. She knows, and I don't have the ability to save you, so you're going to probably die here. Oh. Oh, spider! Shoots and ladders. Oh, no, not another one! Ah, got attacked! The white spider dead face is always funny. It always gets to me because, I hate spiders. I hate them with a passion. My wife plays Hogwarts Legacy, and they always have the spiders, and they actually really creep me out. But there's an arachnophobia mode where they basically have the face like this, where it's just like two dots, two red dots, and like their legs are rollerblades, and I always think that's really cool. I thought that was cool. Still lives, and there is mercy left. The pale widow took the lower tunnels. Her children wear the dark like skin. Do not let the webs touch your throat. Of course I won't, dine serpent folk. Of course I won't. I must carry onward as a knight. A vanquishing knight. So this area of the game that you're seeing me play is the White Web Mines, and I really love the idea of mines. The old-fashioned mines where they'd mine coal or ore or whatever. And then, like a lot of fantasy stuff, like a lot of fantasy games and books or whatever, they're always taken over by some kind of disgusting insect, or arachnid, or snake person or whatever, right? So I decided, why not make the spiders the villains in this part of the game, and have the serpents be, normal everyday people that are just miners who want to get back to work, but they disturbed a nest, and now, you know, spiders are everywhere. So the mind is supposed to be really just something, sweet and innocent and, more laid back than what you'd usually find. Oh, half mad prisoner. No room. No air. No way back. They wait until you sleep, then they lower themselves from above. The queen's below. She knows your footsteps now. Well, I'm glad she knows my footsteps, because I'm going to kick her butt. Ooh, ooh. I always find it fun, playing something that you make. I'm not here to brag or show off or something. Well, actually, no, I am, but my game's free. Everything I make is basic. Oh, god damn it! I let the hunger meter run out. All right, well, let's.
Welcome to Azthengar.
Well, whoever does that voice, says welcome to Azthengar is a pretty badass guy, in my opinion. You know, I didn't just use Audacity and then alter my voice to sound really cool and dark and mysterious. But I always wanted to see a game like that. I always wanted to have something say like, this is the game you're in, so welcome to Azthengar. Oh, what did I get? Ivory ward hums around you. Oh, I got an ivory ward. Okay, sweet. So yeah, I dropped the kids off at school, dropped the wife off at work, the cat's sleeping in the window. I'm just watching YouTube videos. I went down the Meghan Markle rabbit hole, and man, that is insanity. To think that somebody like that, with all the warning signs and everything. I don't know, maybe she's a nice person. She is my favorite royal. And I'm not really a royal person, but out of all of them, I like her the most just because she's so wacky and zany. Like, if she was a comedian, if she was a female comedic actress, I don't know why I said female, but if she was a comedic actress, she'd be hilarious. If she was going around, like, if this was some kind of weird little, like, mixture of sorts where everything she did was like a farce, but it was to get attention, right? She'd honestly be, she'd honestly make it. If she went around with a camera and acted the way she did, but in reality it was a documentary, just like a mockumentary, just to mess with people, she'd be bigger than Sacha Baron Cohen because she acts so unlikable and everything. All these little microaggressions with her hand movements and clapping and spoon waving and stuff. You could actually put that in a movie, be like, the bitch that doesn't know she's a bitch, the movie. You could make so much money off that. You know? If only you didn't take yourself so seriously. If she didn't take herself so seriously, I think she'd be great as a comedic actress. And I've been watching a lot of these YouTube channels, where women pretend, they dress up like her and whatnot. Like, I even watched a little bit of that, With Love from Megan, because I loved her in Suits, right? I always had a crush on her since I saw her in Suits and Deal or No Deal. But it's one of those things where you're just kind of like, if you do it like this and laugh at yourself and make it like your huge selling point, people would give money like in wheelbarrows just to laugh. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I think stuff like that's funny. I I think it's hilarious when people are just goofing around and messing with the system and like trying to break the system. Because honestly, that's something I'd do just to have fun. Just to film it and make a mockumentary, and then there you go, you're golden. Oh, okay. A shrine asks for a price. The woman in the shrine smiles as she already owns you. Well, you sound like my wife. One, kneel, heal, cleanse, and accept her mercy. Two, gold, buy a blessing with coin and shame. Coin and shame, Jesus Christ. Uh, I think it's also fair to say that I'm always high when I work on this game. With Azthengar, I find that um, locking myself away in a room, getting high out of my mind, and don't do drugs, okay? I don't do drugs. I just do pot. All right. I'm Canadian. It's free. It's freely legal here. I don't know why I said free, but it's just one of those things where like I always it, it's just such a great feeling to play like Sega Genesis or an NES or something like that, or even Atari, the 2600, playing that while high. It mind boggles you. You just sit back and you're like, holy crap! How many of these people who made games, you know, like Fatal Labyrinth or Adventure or Yar's Revenge or I don't know, Little Samson, yeah, uh, Samson is that the one? The guy with the hair. I don't know, or even Zelda. Some of those people probably did it just because it's just crazy. It's crazy to think about. Like I'm typing in a computer what to make and how to create it and how to be able to make a work of art from it. And every piece of software, in my opinion, is a work of art because someone had to dedicate their time. They had to design it. They had to test it. They put it out there. People play it. So be it. So be it. But that's, to me, like video games and software and technology are all works of art. Those who say they aren't are obviously talentless in that field. People who say, "Oh, video games aren't fun." It's like, well, that's because you can't play them. You probably got frustrated on Mario Brothers and gave up because some kid called you a loser. You know, being 25 and not being able to play Mario 64. That tells you something. All right. So, anyways, 3, blood. Pay flesh for insight in a brief award. 4, key. Trade iron for secrets or hidden seams. And 5, refuse. Leave before the smile follows you. Basically, you're just giving her stuff for stuff. So, since I'm like 20 down in health, boom. And there's thorn fairies. Now, with the fairies, I always dreamt of because like as a kid watching Peter Pan, whatever, The Hook, that was the movie. I fucking hated that movie. That movie was awful. Talk about a uh, an annoying film. I was gonna say it's presumptuous or whatever, but that's not a real word. Anyways, so yeah, to me it was always boring. It was just one of those things where it felt like this is someone's passion project. Yeah, but the person whose passion project it was probably like a suit, like an executive. It's like I always wanted to make Peter Pan and take away from Disney and make the movie I wanted to make. And then they gave it to Spielberg, and you got Glenn Close as Smee. Like, don't get me wrong, like I love Glenn Close. I think she's a terrific actress, but Dustin Hoffman as Hook. Come on, man. It would have been better, in my opinion, if they got Dennis Hopper to do it or Robert De Niro before he went crazy. I think that would have been great. And Robin Williams, in my opinion, it was overrated. I'm one of the few people. I know a lot of people love Robin Williams, but to me, he's overrated. He was only funny when he was on coke. And if you don't believe me, look at his stand up from like the 80s and like watch Popeye and stuff like that, the movie. because he was only great when he was on coke. When he got off coke and whatever, he became just a parody of himself, where he had to act frantic and wild and crazy like when he was on coke, because that's the only time he ever got laughs. He tried to go all serious and stuff like that, and it just failed. It reminds me of my uncle. Everybody has that one uncle who was really cool and stuff like that when you're young. But as you grow up, you realize, man, this guy's a fucking loser. He's a fucking train wreck. I don't want him around me or my kids, you know? But that's what I always got from Robin Williams. Say what you will. This is just my opinion. He's very overrated, or was overrated. He's dead now, but say la vie, I guess. So the Serpent Queen Slithereth says, "My people are being devoured beneath the roots." Yes, we know you're being devoured in the mines. Will I accept to cleanse it, or no? I cannot. Now, I want to change this box a little bit. I don't like the spacing under the two. No, I cannot. But you know what? I'll leave it in. Why the heck not? So I really wanted to kind of add this whole notion of given options and like tests and like basically just giving the option to the player, because originally Azthengar was supposed to be this huge world within this castle, right? It's all supposed to take place in the castle. And yeah, there's shops in the castle. There's like little rooms and like secrets you can go, and you could warp. I think after every, no, after every two or three, sorry, I apologize. After every 3 floors, if the player lands on the correct tile, which is completely invisible, you get to go to the next level, the next floor. And I really liked that. And then as I'm working on the game, I'm like, okay, well, there's a maze. Okay, there's a minotaur. There's King Azthengar. There's the 5 monsters you got to fight. So every 5 levels in the castle, you have to fight a monster for like the first 25 floors. Every 5 floors is a monster. And I really wanted that to be something spectacular. And once I was done it, I was like, this is brilliant. But, why not expand the outside world? Have snakes and wolves and serpent people and people clinging to the walls and like web and stuff like that, waiting to die. You can't save them. They're going to die, And it's one of those things like one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid, besides the movie War Games and Cloaks and Daggers, was Aliens. The one with the great Paul Reiser. One of the greatest comedic actors in the world is Paul Reiser, in my opinion. He played such a good scumbag in Aliens, and, just sacrificing Ripley and Newt and trying to, like, get them impregnated with the xenomorph is amazing, Because, like, I used to watch him on Mad About You as a kid. I used to love watching Mad About You with my dad because he is a huge Paul Reiser fan. And I am too. And seeing him in that role was just mind-boggling, because he wasn't the lovable, like, documentarian filmmaker who loved his dog. I'm pretty sure that dog played Bingo in the movie Bingo. But it was one of those things, like, I saw him and I was like, man, this guy's great as a scumbag, He's awesome. So I started thinking about that, and I was like, why not have people stuck in spider webs and shit? Why not be able to enjoy, killed you, and be able to, like, because I remember Burke in the director's cut, he was in the wall or clinging to it, and she gave him a grenade, and he was like, what? You're not going to rescue me? He had that look in his face like he was shocked. And it was just one of those things where your own greed and stupidity is what gets you in the end. Always gets you in the end. And it always just mind boggles me, I guess, that greed is always the downfall of very smart people. People who are very smart always seem to fall to greed or lust. It's always one of those two. Power, whatever, but with money and wealth and lust comes power. And those people always seem to wind up meeting their own end. But as you can see here, the Pale Widow has an HP of 416. And the mother of the mind hangs in the dark, swollen with hunger. Well, she's hungry. But I am going to have to turn on, well, judging from my vitals here, I got 64 HP. I got an attack strike of 12. My armor's 5. I'm not going to freaking make it. I got an iron blade with iron plus 2 edge. You know? So I'm gonna do a little magic trick here. And turn on my magical mode. Oh, gotcha. And I'm going to be having a drink of soda. So, because I'm not really used to actually talking in these videos, as you guys saw. Yesterday was my first video, but where I actually sat down and spoke. But now I got all the time in the world, you see. And as you can see with my strike of 13, I'm not doing much damage to him at all. But if I want to beat it, I gotta do it. But that's the thing, though. Like, I put these areas in here, right, to almost... Because you could always go to the shop in the castle and get the elixir of the to teleport to the archivist. And so after every 5 levels on in the castle, no matter where you are, you could always teleport and buy the scroll to teleport to return to the archivist of Azthengar's cabin in the swamp. You could actually just go over there and teleport. So no matter how high of a level you are, you could have like max stats all around after 400 floors in, and then go and easily go up against these villains and these NPCs and fight them. I've been wanting to. I think I'm going to add like kind of like a balancer to it. I want to do that where it'll always adjust to the level that you are, so that you could have fair fights and not just single-handedly win just by attacking once. Ooh, still water. So this area here, after you defeat the mine, is that you reach the end of the mine, and it's a doorway into the woods. But the woods is surrounded by, well, not surrounded by, filled with bandits. And every good game, every good fantasy game, no matter what, like Skyrim or Morrowind or whatever, there's always bandits. And that's one of the things I always thought Zelda, like Legend of Zelda or Link's Awakening, the NES games deserve. They should have had thieves. They should have had enemies like that, like people you meet in the village and they're scumbags and they rob you. Look at these trees. Look at this forest. Look at this. Oh, is it a goblin? I just love how goblins are so cowardly, because you see them in movies and like stories and whatnot. Like they're warriors. They're great and But over here they'll cut and run. And yes, I had to turn on God mode, because I just want to test to see just how far I can go and what I want to add next. Because I believe when I fight the archivist's champion or whatever, I think he's at like over 2,000. But I always need to test this stuff out. It's like not stop testing, because nobody tests this stuff. Because who's gonna download this game and play it? Like, who's gonna download this game and enjoy it? I gotta put on my pimp hat and start working. I gotta work these streets. Wait, no, that's awful. No, okay, never mind. Forget that. But I killed that hippie. Oh, I never liked these guys. So when they make the red eyes like that, that's when they usually go in for the kill shot. So when you're at your weakest or whatever and you're going to die, and they're winding up for that kill shot, that's when you see the red eyes. And I always love that. The whole character, the whole NPC character. I know it's not a new concept. I used to play, Ultima when I was a kid, on the Game Boy. And, ooh, Stillwater Lake. Let's see. The music's playing. The Lady of Stillwater. Past this clearing waits the Archivist's champion. Take the sword of the Archivist. It is the strongest blade in the land. Will you face the knight who seeks you for battle? Yeah, why not? The knight fills the clearing like a moving wall. The sword of the Archivist burns in your hand. We need more. We need more fantasy RPG games. Everything sucks now. Everything is garbage. Remember that stupid night game with that guy in the bowl haircut? I don't know what the fuck that thing was, but Jesus Christ, that was garbage. See, I got like 2,996 hit points. Well, screw that. I'm god moding it. But you notice that when I get the sword of the Archivist, my strike jumps up frantically like that? So if you go play the first 5 levels of the dungeon, and then you go about here, it gives you a 100 strike, depending on how much you got. So that's always fun. Tent child. The grown-ups say not to look north when the graves start moving. I looked once. Something looked back. Are you going to make it stop? Of course I am. Chief's daughter. Father sleeps in the northern tent now, guarding the graves with one eye open. He says the dead are hungry because something woke them wrong. Please bring peace back to the ground. I love this. This is what I always wanted to have. A nice, like a village, a nomadic village, going through everything, being able to meet new people. And this is what gaming's supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be 3D graphics and like soulless committees designing everything. It's not. It's supposed to be like this. You know? Like Phantasy Star or the first 3 Final Fantasies. Fire cooks, stew is boiling, children are eating. For one night we pretend life is normal. The smoke keeps the wolves away unless the rabies has taken them fully. The dead smell the meat. I swear they do. And that's what I'm trying to make here. I'm not trying to make the next Mona Lisa. I'm not trying to make the next Legend of Zelda or Final Fantasy. I'm trying to make the game I always wanted to play. And if nobody wants to play it, so be it. But Azthengar is this massive world where you don't need to pay $1 billion, to make. You just need one guy and a couple bags of dank and QBasic, and look what I can make. Come on, it's great. Camp Watchman, you came through the champions clearing alive. That means the woods have chosen you. Stand close to the fires, but not in them. The flames bite. Chief Bronwyn keeps his tent near the burial ground. And I always wanted, when I came to design this game when I was younger, and in my mind, I always wanted to write a fantasy book. I never was a fan, and you may find this shocking. Here, I'll mute the music here. But I never was a fan of Lord of the Rings. Never. I was more of a fan of Zelda, or Ultima. Final Fantasy 1, the first Final Fantasy was great. I think the first 3 were amazing. Then after that, they kind of lost their way, and then they came back with 7, which was nice. But after that, in my opinion, that's when it stopped. When it became super mainstream in the West is when I kind of checked out, because it's like, okay, here we go. They sold their soul. You know, they made that movie. I remember that stupid movie with Alec Baldwin, and they're like, "Look at this! You know, we got technology for the hair and stuff." And it's like, who cares? Is it good? But look at all this. Look at all this CG. You know, nobody could really answer that, and it always that's the dead giveaway sign that something's garbage. Is when the people that make it are like, "Look, we made this technology for hair movement." It's like, okay, that's great, but you know, is the story good? Is the script good? Are the actors right for the role? No? Oh, okay. Well, it'll flop and you'll lose hundreds of millions of dollars, but at least that hair looks accurate for the time being. Medicine Man, rest by my altar. If your bones remember pain, the plants still obey the old songs. Even as the graves go sour, do not mistake poison fire for holy fire. Which is actually true because if you walk into the fires here, because I like the fact that you know there's fire in this village, but you could walk into it like an idiot and take like 4 damage or 8 damage depending on which one you step in, and it's just funny that basically it's like here there's shrines here, but don't step in the fire. You know the shrines look like the fire, but don't do it. And so, anyways, I always thought that was funny. And the cluster of tents too. Like I could have made like just multiple, like just big tents for them to go into, and like you enter into like a new thing. Oh, see, like I got 5 damage. Boom, another. Oh no, 4 damage. Oh, jeez and crackers. Tent mother, I keep blankets warm for anyone who still remembers how to sleep. The little ones ask why the ground moans beyond the chief's tent. Tell them heroes know what to do. And of course, I got the keys set up to be the numerical keypad on my laptop. So 8, 4, 6, and 2 are the moving ones. Oh, looks like we're coming across some spooky stuff. There, turn the music back on because I love the music. The music was made with a software with a song program I wrote a while ago to kind of make this kind of like almost monotone PC speaker sound to it, but a little bit less harsh and more kind of rhythmic and peaceful. It's one of the few things that I really, really love about this. Oh, damn it. 8 damage. Chief Bronwad. Knight, worthy of the people, hear me from my tent. Past this fire, the burial ground has turned putrid with the stench of death. Vanquish the flesh-hungry dead so our ancestors can rest in peace. Man, that's so hard-hitting. Yeah, okay, I'll agree. Chief Brownwad raises his hand towards the graves beyond his tent. Zombies crawl there in search of flesh. The old road opens through rotten prayer. Oh, and there's a skeleton. Oh no, the zombies are attacking! Burial ground zombie? Whatevs. Ugh. Yeah, look at that. Bright path climbs the camp into cold mountain air. Above the trees, a sacred temple is carved into the stone itself. So yeah, I've always wanted to make a game that was fun, exciting, and adventurous, you know? And why not make a top-down roguelite? Ancient statues watch over serpent altars, broken cells, research desks, and fires that should not still burn. Winged demons shriek through the holy dark. Okay. Oh. Yeah, that's enough of that music. I gotta write more music. So anyways, like I was saying, I made this program to make, like, PC speaker like song MP3s for this. So it writes them all out. Like I'll program it what to do. You know, be like I want A1 whatever, blah 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 blah. Perhaps I'll make a video on it in the future. But it's just like this little keyboard thing I programmed, and I'm able to make these little songs with it. And from that, I'm able to make the music for this. Aerolith taught knowledge must kneel before mercy. The scholars carved equations beside prayers until both bled together. The winged ones entered through the wound between faith and pride. And so it's just something I like to do, you know. I just originally this song was this yeah, not this song. This game was going to be silent with just the sound effects, but I was like, it's got to have something, you know. What did the games I grew up with have? You know, they had atmospheric music. Everything seemed to be almost simplistic in a way, and that's what I wanted the music in this game to be, kind of like faint and haunting, and able to kind of transport the player back to where the roots are in gaming. And I know it sounds crazy, and so I'm trying to come up with stuff to say to make myself sound like I know what the fuck I'm talking about, because I put everything on the screen. I wrote every line of code, 27,000 lines of code so far, and it's always expanding. But I'm always trying to make something better. Fire Fang Serpent. Look at that. Look at that face. That's a face of mother. Ah, and he's screaming in pain. But it's just one of those things where, like, I can create something like this, no problem. But me trying to explain it is completely out of left field. It's one of those things that I find that in my life that I'm able to actually really enjoy is playing this game and making this game and writing the blog posts and what have you. Oh, where did I go? Oh, there you go. So yeah, you could press P. It turns off like your lantern and stuff, but you're still able to see stuff like this if you're in the vicinity of it. I is for the satchel, which is tells you about your provisions. You can see the crimson potions and whatnot, and the keys, and the quick notes here for 1, 2, 3. You could swap them out your current kit for your reserve. But why would I want to swap out the sword of the archivist when I have it? But here, look, boom, 1. I swapped it out, so I could swap out my armor cloth 0. Can't do that. I got no shields, relics. So there you go. And L is for recall, which takes you back to the archivist of Azthengar's cabin or shanty. And pressing O on the shop uh, is for the merchant floors in Azthengar, in the castle. So here you got your quick keys for using your potions, and then the treat afflictions with venom, wounds, and fears. You got all that stuff here. But whatchamacallit, here you got your Asgard field notes. So basically, this is just your options, or not your options, but your controls and whatnot. So yeah, see, toggle map, recall from gold for gold. So the recall, you got to pay the store shop clerk a ridiculous amount of gold the further you go in, which is actually pretty cool. I actually really like that. Old school rule: mystery is part of the map. Read the whispers, watch the walls, and keep blank. Okay, so let's see. And here, as you can see, we see red fire in the high windows last night. The cattle would not face the mountain. Please tell me the priests are not all gone. So here you see we are just wandering. Boom. So this is where I'm at now. What you saw, what I did was that the it would teleported us back to the first floor of the castle of Azthengar, which it should do. But with being able to defeat the monsters and stuff like that and whatever, I gotta finish that off. So that's basically where I'm at now in the game. I've got to work my butt off to make sure this is good. So, yeah, with that said, this is Azthengar. Welcome to my first Let's Play of Azthengar. That's the word. See, look, even the villains are like 9 HP, so I gotta fix that. So, anywho, I want to thank you all for joining me here today on my first Let's Play of Azthengar. Thank you for joining me here today. I hope it was everything you could have wanted and more. Don't forget to download the game. Link in the description below. Follow my blog, azthengar.com, where I pretty much keep everything up to date, talk about new additions, talk about what I want to add to the series, and talk about wanting to make something truly, truly special for everyone to play, and for all of you, and for myself as well. So, with that being said, thank you for joining me here today. Godspeed, take care, and I'll see you all